Hey guys, this is EckhartsLadder. Hello and welcome to another Star Wars lore video. Today we'll be talking about the Battle of Umbara. Now, before some of you get a little too excited, today's not the day I do a full battle breakdown of Umbara. Instead, I want to tackle some of the ethical issues that this arc of the Clone Wars exposes. And I think what we talk about today is one of the reasons that the Umbaran arc is one of the best of the Clone Wars and why the show itself is so good. And I mean, there's a lot of nuance here. These episodes expose a lot more than the fact that one Jedi, Krell, is a bad dude, but actually expose the major cracks in the Republic and to me show why it needed to fall. I mean, the Empire probably shouldn't have replaced it, but in my opinion by this point the Republic was no longer fit to lead the galaxy. So we will talk about Pong Krell later on, and especially his treatment of clones, but before that I want to look at the actual Battle of Umbara itself. And in my opinion, the invasion of Umbara by the Republic is not justified in any way whatsoever, and I think you can say a lot of that about the Clone Wars as well. Let's look at this. And of course Palpatine's influence is ever present, so it's hard to really look at the separatist movement. However, the main thing that connects the member states of the CIS is the fact that they no longer want to be represented, governed, or subject to the Republic and its rules. And based on what we've seen in the prequels and in books like Plagueis from Legends, I think that that's quite reasonable. The Republic was full of corruption. Ironically, they were far more influenced by mega corporations and banks than even the CIS, as Senator Bonteri points out. And just generally, it makes sense why lots of states would not want to be under Republic control anymore, why they'd want to either form their own government together or determine their own futures. I've done a whole video on why the Separatists legally couldn't just secede from the Republic, and there are a lot of nuanced, complicated issues there, but I think it's fairly obvious that war never should have happened. And the Republic, in allowing Palpatine to totally manipulate themselves into fighting what was essentially a group of systems that just no longer wanted to be in the Republic, shows the true depth of corruption, cronyism, and other serious issues that had infected the government by this time, and the Jedi Order, but we'll talk about that in a bit. But let's look at Umbara specifically, and the interesting thing about this planet is they actually were, for a time, part of the Republic. In fact, the quite evil-looking Medici from earlier episodes of the Clone Wars was the Umbaran senator. Now, he seems like a bad dude, and admittedly, he does carry many of the pro-war ideals and probably other issues with corruption that I was just talking about earlier. However, he was also a patriotic Republic senator, and although he's presented as a villain, ultimately he isn't a CIS puppet or anything like that, and probably didn't do a whole lot that was strictly illegal, or at least outside the norm of what Republic senators of his era were doing. However, he was murdered, which must have been one of the factors that led to Umbara deciding to secede from the Republic and join the Separatists. And I think that's understandable. The Republic at this time is completely chaotic. They're arguably fighting a war without any sort of moral justification, albeit one being engineered behind the scenes, and their senator has just been assassinated. Basically, they now think the Republic can't even protect their own interests. How does the Republic respond to a system simply wanting to leave? With a massive invasion that devastates the planet, as we see in the Umbaran arc. It would have been one thing if the Umbarans separated from the Republic and then immediately started to furnish war secrets or advanced technology to the Confederacy, but in fact there's absolutely no evidence of that happening. In fact, even though the Umbarans have incredible technology, state-of-the-art starfighters and weapons, we never see any of that actually used outside of the local Umbaran militias. The Separatists had protected the planet, that's true, but the Republic managed to get through that pretty easily, and there were no bases or droid factories or anything on the surface. Umbara was simply being protected by its residents, and the only real justification we get is that it had some strategic value as a supply line. Basically, the Republic believes if a planet chooses to secede from the Republic, then they have the right to go in and dominate it and basically make it their own. Now, it is true that they did join the Separatists and that there was an open state of war, but I think the Republic makes a major mistake by not differentiating between the war aspects of the CIS and the more civilian aspects. And I mean, that's kind of going back to the fact that the Republic should have just negotiated a secession in the first place for any system that was interested. I mean, yes, it will damage the Republic, but they're a republic, not an empire. They shouldn't be forcing their will upon systems that don't want to be governed by a central body. Anyway, the fighting begins. Several Jedi, who are supposed to be keepers of peace, are now leading legions and legions of stormtroopers. Sorry, they're still calling them clone troopers now. Against a planetary militia, a planet's citizens who had seceded from the Republic because their senator was killed and now was under a full-scale invasion. And no one, not even supposedly best of the Jedi Obi-Wan Kenobi, takes a second to question the morality of the invasion. And that's only the tip of the iceberg when we get to Umbara, because everyone else knows how difficult things get when General Krell is introduced. So let's move on. We'll ignore the fact that the Republic went in, captured the Umbaran capital city, probably subjugated the rest of the planet, took people prisoners, etc., and look at the fact, and look at the issues of clones, Jedi generals, and of course, Pong Krell. First of all, I'm sorry, but there is zero moral justification for the Jedi and the Republic using a clone army. You're essentially creating slaves who are forced into servitude, killed by the millions, and bought and sold. They're created for the sole purpose of fighting a war, and although some Jedi are truly respectful and even really like some of them, ultimately the clones have no self-determination, as we see with Domino Squad, are valued only for their fighting abilities, and are essentially treated like battle droids made out of meat. Anyway, the Jedi, for some reason, supposed keepers of peace, are given command over clone legions, and ignoring all the wider issues with that, let's look specifically at Pong Krell. So, Krell's a real asshole, and there's no denying that. He was looking to gain the attention and favor of Count Dooku, and one of the ways he did so was by sending clones, who remember are engineered to have to fight and follow orders to absolutely certain death. Not only are his tactics terrible, but he outright attempts to kill as many clones as possible, as we see in the situation where two clone armies begin fighting each other. The thing is, Umbara is not the first time that Krell displayed these attributes. Now, it's not really covered in the expanded universe, but the show itself states that Krell has for a long time been the Jedi with the highest clone casualties under his command by far. Yet, we have no evidence that the Jedi have any reservation about putting him in command of troopers, or that the Republic has even reviewed these statistics, despite the fact that they represent real living beings dying under his command. And I mean, all of that is obvious. I don't need to explain it to you guys. At least not why Krell is evil, but I really think it's important that we recognize and examine how the other Jedi around him treat Krell. He's seen as a bit of a hard ass, but it might as well have been droids dying under his command. He's totally unfit for any sort of leadership position. He's unfit for being a Jedi. He's unfit for being in war. Yet, the Republic puts him in command of a major operation against a planet that dared to secede after their senator died. The Republic by this point was a shadow of its former glory. The Clone Wars exposed every single thing that was wrong with the Republic, and in my mind, the Umbaran arc is a really good microcosm of what was going on across the galaxy. Yes, it is true that Palpatine engineered all of this, but the Republic and the Jedi allowed this to happen. Yoda realizes this, at least in the Star Wars canon sequel trilogy. They basically went as far as they could from what it meant to be a Jedi, upholding only the dogma while failing totally to see how far astray they were being led. And for all of these reasons, the Umbaran arc is one of my favorite in the Clone Wars series, but that's all I have to say about that. No question of the day today, but I just want to remind you guys, if you haven't already, please consider subscribing to my second channel, X2. I'll link to it in the upper right hand corner and also down in the description. I've been doing live streams 3, 4, sometimes 7 times a week. I've been uploading videos. We have so much fun over there. We play Empire at War, other Star Wars games like Republic Commando. I play with other YouTubers like my friend Corey and my co-host Charlie, and we've just got a really great community. Consider checking it out. Again, links down in the description, but also if you want to watch more videos here, make sure to subscribe and turn notifications on. Anyway guys, that's all I have for now. Until next time, have a great day, and may the Force be with you.